This tutorial is going to talk to you about 2D versus 3D for our elevation and level markers, as well as the benefits of cropping our views and how to crop and uncrop our views, and also scaling drawings. First, for scaling drawings, you notice that we have a scale down here in the toolbar in the lower left-hand corner, as well as a scale in our properties bar. This scale is adjustable with different settings that are in Revit, and what you want to do is you want to adjust them based on any project requirements and assignment requirements, as well as how drawings fit on sheets. Remember when we developed the sheet earlier, we had a floor plan, and if we click on that view, even if it's on the sheet and we change the floor plan, we'll then see the impact of how it fits on our sheet. Revit, because it's a building information model, is very smart, and it scales all of the different symbols like our elevation symbols, our building section symbols, and dimensions and notes when we add those, because remember, these dimensions that we're seeing here are from the AutoCAD file that has been linked in. So if we actually go back to that floor plan, you notice that it now says 1/4 of an inch because we changed it on the sheet, and all of these drawings are linked together because this is a building information model. Another thing that is important is that when we look at our level markers, you notice when you click on one that it says 2D versus 3D. Depending on what we've done so far, these markers could be two-dimensional, which means if they're two-dimensional and we change them in this view, it will then not change in the related views. If we look at something like elevations, our east elevation, here you notice that it says 3D. So that means that if I move this line, it's going to impact the west elevation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to close all of my extra views. I'm going to go to View, Tile Views, and I'm going to see what happens with my east and west elevations if I change the location of these elevation markers and level lines. So here it looks like it's taking up way too much space, and these look like they're too far away. So if I click on this line and then the dot and drag it over, they're all linked together, as we can see from that dotted line, and I move them closer, you notice that on the opposite side, because this is the opposite side of the building, those level markers get closer. So if I do the same thing over here, and I need to make sure, and I accidentally made it 2D, which means that it won't change on the opposite side. So let me undo that. So 3D is the important part, and I move that over. So sometimes that's great because you keep those things in relationship to one another. Other times you might need to move it on one drawing, but you don't want it to move on another drawing. That's why we zoom in and we click on the actual word or text 3D, and it changes it to 2D. And then we can move that line, but remember, it doesn't associate with these here, and it doesn't associate with those there. If we click on that line in this drawing, it's still 3D in this drawing because we did not detach it. Now, this is not something you should do unless you absolutely need to, because sometimes then you will regret it because you want things to actually connect to one another. But it is an option. Another thing we need to think about is our crop region. So we can edit our crops by coming down to the toolbar at the bottom, and here you see that we have the crop view tool. That means that the view is not being cropped right now because it says crop view versus do not crop view. Also, it says show our crop region in the tool next to it, and that's saying that the crop region has been turned off. If I show my crop region, here we can see it, and then I can edit it. So that's another way to make those level markers actually be a little shorter. You notice when I crop that view, it moves the level markers closer and closer. And then if I actually hit do not crop view, it changes it back. So there's some visual rewards with cropping your view versus not cropping your view, and we typically want to turn it off once we've made those edits. So play around with the 2D and the 3D, and you're going to see that some other elements also have a 2D and a 3D option, as well as those level markers, and play around with the cropping view, because sometimes when you crop the view, if you crop things too far, Or if you put notes outside of that crop view, they may disappear even though they're in the model. They're just not in the view.